So have you ever heard of the analogy of the crab bucket? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today on Relaxed Male, episode number 23. Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, a podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies. Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. All right, so today we're on episode 23 and we're calling this Avoid the Crab Bucket because this is a trap that we fall into so many times when receiving advice and even giving advice to those people who we truly deeply have a committed relationship to, be it your kids, your parents, your wife, your best friend. All these people have a tendency to want to have us in a crab bucket. Now, where does this whole analogy come from? Well, fishermen, you can actually catch, when you're catching crabs, you would think that you would need to take a crab and put them in a cage so that they don't get out and run off. But in all reality, you don't have to do that. You can just have a bucket, an open top bucket, and put your crabs in there, and they're not going to escape because as one tries to climb up and out and he almost gets out of there, the other crabs that are right down on the bottom of the bucket still are going to reach up, wanting to try to climb out also is what they're doing, but they're going to get a hold of him. They're going to get a hold of the closest thing they can, and it's that one that's high enough, and they're going to pull him back into the crab bucket. Now, we do that as humans. We see somebody who is getting a little bit higher than us and we end up pulling them down. This is also called in another phrase called the tall poppy syndrome. And both of them do a lot of the same things. One is the crab bucket is more for the immediate family, and the tall poppy syndrome is actually society overall. But we also have a tendency to want to throw the tall poppy syndrome at other people. And I'll talk about the tall poppy syndrome here a little bit later on. But anyhow, so what is the problem with being in a crab bucket? Well, first off, you're not going to be able to get anywhere. You're stuck in a bucket. Every time you try to get out, almost make it. And no, one of your loved ones reaches up and says, "Hey, you don't want to do that," and pulls you back down. And they give you very good, in their mind, logical reasons as to why you don't want to do whatever that idea, thought, dream, goal happens to be. And there's several reasons to this, but, the biggest one is because they want to make sure that you stay safe. And that is such a dangerous word these days. If there is danger, it is in the word of being safe from companies who number one focus is safety to us making sure that our children these days are so bubble wrapped and so protected that they start to, it goes against their very nature. And we'll talk about that, but safety is such a horrible word. Now, honestly, I would love to see that word reduced and how often it is used, because like I said, when it comes to like companies, they put you in so much, they want you to do so many safety oriented things. And the reason why they have safety, it's wrapped in the pretty word of, we want to make sure you're taken care of. Well, in all reality, no, that's not. We all know that's not the truth. That's just because the company doesn't want to be sued into oblivion. And that's right. It's justifiable. I would agree. If I had a company and if I have several employees with the company, I would not want them to do something that would cause me put me into financial jeopardy. So no, you don't want people to do things unsafe. And to do that, and to mitigate costs, you actually have to have a safety program for for the insurance on the company. So you have, because of the fact that so many companies are wanting to do this and have to do this, we start getting ourselves into a lot more trouble. That having safety is, being safety conscious actually causes more problems. There's more accidents with being protective and being overly conscious with safety than to just lay out rely on the human being himself or herself to actually take their safety cautions in presence of mind. A good example of this is with the NFL versus rugby. Rugby is a very rough sport. It's basically football without pads. Now there's rule differences, I understand, but still, follow me and go with me on this. There are a whole lot more concussions and physical injuries and things like that happen to somebody who is fully decked out in football pads and helmets and all that. But yet we still have this we still have this incredible problem of concussions in football. While the level of concussions in rugby is a far greater or far less problem. And that is because they don't have helmets. They don't have pads. It's just man against man. And so we instinctually try to avoid from ramming heads together and ramming heads into shoulders and other body parts. We have a built-in safety mechanism, but that gets overridden by so much. We got to be safe. I used to be in the oil field, and there was several times where it was more dangerous for me to be fully decked out in all the safety equipment they wanted you to have, because you had I understand the steel toe boots. I understand the hard hat, because I've seen things go, on our pneumatic, trailers, like a check valve cover get stripped out and go ping and go fly up in the air. That could come down, hit somebody on the head, cause serious harm. And so I get why you have to, and we're working around pressure anyhow when you're hydraulic fracturing. So I understand why you need to have a hard hat on. But on top of that, they want you to have safety glasses on. I kind of get it. I kind of understand. You don't want something to fly into your eye, and damage an eye. But at the same time, those safety glasses are so sealed up that a lot of times you have problems with them fogging up. So which is safer? Would you rather chance something getting into your eye, or trip over a trip hazard and bash your head because you couldn't see where you're walking? Another example of that would be, when you're working in the offloading frac sand into a sand can, they actually, at first, when I first started, they didn't have this, but within the last 2 years, all of a sudden everybody was, like all dangerous. They want you to avoid getting silicosis and things like that, silicosis is dust pneumonia. All right. Dust pneumonia was very prevalent during the times of the Dust Bowl in the United States and around the Oklahoma Panhandle, Texas Panhandle, bits of Kansas and southeastern Colorado. And that was a lot of the problems that we had, but we just had a really bad drought and winds kicked up. And so there was a constant dust storm that was blowing around during the Dust Bowl era of the 30s, during the Great Depression. Because of that, a lot of people, and mainly it was kids, developed what was called dust pneumonia. It was just basically dust, more dust and dust coating the inside of our lungs to where, you couldn't breathe and you eventually suffocated and died. And it was a horrible experience and a horrible death, but it was because they were in a dust-filled environment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when you got out, it cleared up. Now, so they required you, because of they were afraid of being sued for somebody who developed silicosis. They wanted you to wear these dust masks. Well, the dust mask limits your peripheral vision for one. So you had to, you couldn't see anything down, right below you. So if I was always tripping over stuff because I had this dad-burned dust mask. So safety as a word, and I'm getting back over to where we're going. We're not talking the problems of safety, though. This all revolves around the levels, the word safety at the same time. I know I'm getting convoluted. I apologize, but because of the fact that we are wanting everybody to be safe, we've actually caused more problems. We do the same thing. See, I'm getting back with our loved ones. We want them to be safe, but it's in all reality, most people's day-to-day life doesn't have a whole lot of actual danger of where they're going to end up dying. They really, you've got some cousins and nephews and things like that who may be into adrenaline sports. So they go skydiving or they rock climb and things like that. And yeah, those do have an element of danger. And there's a reason why that danger is in all reality very good for them. The same thing goes with anybody trying something new. There's an element of good, but yet we want to hold them back from excelling and becoming successful and achieving those goals because of our crab bucket mentality. This thought of we want to keep them safe. And in all reality, it's not that we want to keep them safe. We fear for their comfort. We don't want to see them uncomfortable, because when they get uncomfortable, that means we're going to get uncomfortable. And then our amygdala, that reptile part of our brain, just doesn't want us to have discomfort. Now, last time I checked, I haven't seen a single person killed by a saber-toothed tiger in the last at least 100 years. That may just be that we've become very aware of them and we've scared them all off. But I don't think there's been any saber-toothed tiger attacks in at least the last 100, 150, maybe even 200 years. Of course, we know that it's been longer, but still, stick with the joke. All right. Bad joke if you have to explain it. I understand. But anyhow, so these days we work so hard to try to make sure that we're comfortable. And safe is telling each other, doing it out of the safety because we worry, which is a very bad feeling that we don't like to have. We limit not only ourselves, but because we don't want to have that discomfort of worry, discomfort of fear in our lives, we also don't want our children to experience the joys and the success and the oorah of living life, at least a little bit dangerously. I mean, our kids these days used to ride bikes, and we do it without elbow pads, knee pads, or a helmet, and never did one out of our biker group that we had. Yeah, we had plenty of scraped knees and broken bones, but pads would not have protected us against those broken bones. But what we did do is we jumped curbs. We made ramps and tried to jump over them. And I quickly realized I'm not a ramper, because the first time I tried doing that, realized I was not going fast enough, and I went down and over and crashed and burned and rolled. And it was I got left a good amount of skin on the sidewalks. But we all learn that, hey, yeah, I crashed, I burned, but I survived. And you allow your son to become tougher. So I always encourage men and folks to allow your kid to live dangerously. Now there's a limit. I understand. Don't let them climb on top of the roof and try to jump off with an umbrella. That's, we know when there's something really dumb, but I mean, how many of us actually climbed on the roof and jumped off the roof? It wasn't at the peak. 90% of us jumped off of the, lower ends. We would climb up on the top of the house and dare each other to jump off, and you would jump off and and smack the ground and roll over, and you thought it was fun because you survived. That was a thrill. That was exhilarating. You learned something wonderful about yourself. And that's one of the great things about those types of challenges. But when the kids become older, and when you become older, you may have, talked to an uncle who at one time was a photographer or something. And you've started having when you may have been wanting to be a photographer yourself, and you got a camera and professional equipment, and you really started putting investing in some real money into your hobby because you want to become a photographer. You want to show the world through the light that you've captured. But you may end up, have been telling this uncle who used to be a photographer the idea. And he starts telling you, it's like, oh, well, it's cool. It's fun, but you're not going to make any money at it. And he might start telling you, hey, it's a really dumb idea. You've got to be in the right circles. You're never going to be in the right circles because circles and he may inject his own prejudices and thoughts and analysis into it to keep you from doing that very thing that he used to try to do. There's reasons behind that. One, his story may have been that he was trying to make money as a photographer, and he went through and he shot hundreds of thousands of photographs, spent thousands and thousands of dollars on having those photographs developed because, he was old enough. It was before digital photography. So he used to shoot in silver, and he would, all the work that he used to do just didn't ever pan out. He may have ended up losing everything. He he may actually even wish he could still do photography, but he doesn't. The fact that doing photography brings up the thoughts of him failing, and that is a discomfort to him. And so he doesn't want to see you go through the same discomforts. He doesn't want to see you fail like he did. And so, yeah, he may actually go through and very vehemently tell you it's a really dumb, bad idea. Take that dream, wad it up, throw it out. And sadly, a lot of us take those ideas, and we do take that advice, and we do, and we become another crab that's sitting at the bottom of the bucket. So being safe is not a good thing. It would have been better if your uncle probably did encourage your dream. Let your dream bloom. You may end up learning the very same lessons he learned, and you may decide that, it's not worth the discomfort, but there's a bigger chance that you could be the crab that actually got out of the bucket. And that really hurts to a lot of people. If they see that you succeeded, that's showing to them that, hey, you quit just a little too early. And shows and reflects upon them that, hey, they actually did fail. They gave up on their dream. That was the ultimate sign of failure, and that becomes very discomforting to them. So again, people don't want to be out of comfort. They don't want to experience the discomfort of failure. They don't want a disappointment and all that. So they don't want to even have you try to do your dream, try to do something that would actually expand your horizons, because that shows them that they didn't expand their horizons when they were at your age, and they had the very same possibility that you did. Now, this also describes the tall poppy syndrome. Now, tall poppy syndrome is defined as the description of a cultural phenomenon of making people who think highly of themselves by cutting down that tall poppy. Because poppies a lot of times will grow about the same height, but every so often you get that one poppy that just sticks out above all the rest. This is a phrase that is common in Australia and New Zealand, and it seems that by many as self-deprecating, and by others as a means of promoting modesty. But in reality, and this really gets tied into with like the rich. If you're successful, you're not supposed to flaunt your success. You don't need to be talking about money like that. That is all tall poppy syndrome. If you start talking about money and you start flaunting around that you've got a brand new car, you've got a very exotic vehicle, something most people can't afford, that shows them that they aren't at that level, and it makes them feel very uncomfortable. And because of that, we now have a whole society that is actually running around. And if you have any type of success, they think it's not fair. You shouldn't be you could be doing stuff with that money. You'll often hear the phrase, well, it must be nice. And they're using that as well, I don't have that. And yet you're flaunting it in my face. That makes me feel bad. That's exactly what they're saying to you by saying in a very passive aggressive way of, well, it must be nice to have that kind of money. And in all reality, you should respond with, yeah, it is very nice. I worked my ass off for that money. So I am allowed to enjoy the benefits of my hard work. Had a discussion with a cousin of mine I had a cousin of mine who was we had a very similar discussion because Jeff Bezos is doing something with a 10,000-year-old clock. Apparently this clock ticks once every year or something like that. And, all the details of it are a bit over my head, but it was neat because to me, but at the same time, the fact that he was spending something like $42 million to build this clock inside of a mountain. And, my cousin made the comment of, well, he's got 600,000 employees who he could be doing something with that money other than just building a clock. And okay, yeah, he could. But again, that is the tall poppy syndrome. Jeff Bezos has built Amazon. I mean, this is a huge company. This is the 800-pound gorilla of the online commerce world. And so because of that, because of the hard work and the dedication and the vision and all that, Jeff has become, if not the wealthiest man, almost the wealthiest man. I believe he is the wealthiest man in the world. And because of that, he has the right and the ability and the right and the ability to actually just do with his money what he wants. And some people who don't appreciate the fact that he is of all the work that he's done, he does spend his money on what he would like to spend his money on. But again, the fact that he's making statements that are supposed to kind of, if Jeff was to actually read it, to shame him into the fact that he's got all this money, that is the tall poppy syndrome. There's people trying to cut that tall poppy down so he's not taller than the rest of the poppies in the field. And I'm sure you've heard stuff like, he has more money than sense. He's lucky. He's very, white privilege is believe it or not, a tall poppy, because there's other people who there's not a supremacy on race, but because people see a person who is successful, they attribute his race to that, to the hard work, instead of being that. Instead of the fact that he worked hard, they're wanting to just say, well, he got it just because he's lucky enough to be white. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. Toxic masculinity. Again, they're attributing it to men being able to do something that they believe women can't do or women should be able to do. And there's a whole other discussion with that, but it's you should be at my height. You should not be as successful as I am. And they're essentially just shooting themselves in the foot whenever they say things like that, because they're limiting what they believe they're able to do. And because of the scarcity mindset. Yeah, I've even come across where now there's a new privilege out there. There's, that cropped up during the whole COVID-19 thing, and that was happiness privilege. You got the privilege of being happy. No, I've got the choice, and you fight people. And I had a lot of discussions with some people about the discussion of happiness privilege, and it's not a privilege. It is a mindset, it is a choice. And I chose to be happy. I can see the good in the silver lining in every cloud. You have that very same ability. So, and this is evident not only just in society itself, but if you were to shrink it down, and your son probably faces this a lot, especially if he is very goal oriented. He is very, motivated to make something of himself. A lot of times, kids who are working very hard in math, say, for instance, they work real hard. They get, called out by the kids who are not doing quite as good. They're called names, brainiac, nerd, things like that. And luckily our society has also embraced the nerd and geek culture. But it means something completely different in today's society. And when I was in school, being a nerd was, you're just overly smart. Well, not entirely. I just took a really big interest in biology and science. But because you go off and you stick me in the math, and I was dumber than a post. So but because you shine in one place, people will make comments to try to bring you back down to their level. Again, you're a crab that's getting out of the bucket. So your high school classmates didn't like the sensation and the feeling and the impression that you gave by crawling out, so they would drag you back down. So why do people hold us back? Well, the first one is because of safety. That is the biggest self deceit that we do is it's for the safety of them, or it's for the safety of us. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel discomfortable. We don't want our son to be uncomfortable. A lot of times, you will see this, especially with if your son is wanting to join the military, say he's really talking Army and you were Navy. And so you really don't want him to be the bullet sponge that an Army guy is going to be. Well, if you were to actually stop on those types of thoughts and step back and look, all right, so what are the advantages if he joins the Army or any military branch? It could be that one, he's going to learn how to be a lot more disciplined in his actions. He's going to be a lot more intentional in what he does. He's going to learn that that respect is actually a good thing to earn, and how to actually earn the respect that is needed. He also will expand his network. He'll know a lot more people that he can actually, as he joins the business world, will have more people he can, reach out to help him with his business endeavors if he wants to go into business himself. Yet all these numerous advantages get shoved off to the side because the first thing us parents are going to think is, well, what if there's a war? We never know when there's a war. Well, you're right. We don't ever know when a war or a conflict is going to arise, or we have to we have to call our boys out to protect some third world country out in the middle of nowhere. It does happen. We've got that in history. It's, almost once every 20 years, we end up having some type of dust up. We just got finished with one big dust up. So there's a good chance that we're not going to have another instance. Of course, who knows? Iran may decide to really cause a problem, or Iran joins up with the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union joins up with China, and then we've got a really, really, really big dust up, and then all of a sudden it's all hands on deck. Yeah, he's going to be our son will be put into danger, and that's no matter whether he's going to be in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. There's always a risk of danger, and that danger, though, provides some incredible rewards for later on. But we forget about all those rewards because we're only focused in on, well, what if he gets hurt? What if he has PTSD? What if this? What if that? What if all the other issues? Well, those are what ifs. You have no control over those what ifs. So you just need to look at the positives, and we'll address the negatives when they come about. Another reason why people act like crabs in a bucket is because they see themselves in your effort. A lot of times the snide comments, the suggestions of not doing it are because we see our failures. Our son, our relative, actually raises the discomfort of what our failures actually were. That's a better way to say it. So we don't want to have those bad, negative, horrible emotions. We want to avoid those, So instead of allowing those emotions to just happen and to live its life and fade out, and we continue our life, we want to avoid being, want to avoid focusing. I can't talk today. We want to avoid the discomfort of the fact that, we may have tried something very similar and we failed at it, or we tried something similar, or we had a dream like that once and we didn't reach for it, and now we believe that it's gone. If you look at it closely, we know that that's not the case. The dream is always there. There's never a too late for that dream. And the last one is actually, again, the bane of society, and that's the scarcity mindset. That's where all the thoughts of unbalanced money and people who think that they have no resources at hand to be able to get to where they want to be. That is a thought that resources are scarce. They're not there. And this is fear-based thought, and it causes people to not see the forest for the trees. I've actually got another episode that is about the scarcity mindset. And that episode is actually episode number 15. You can go to relaxedmail.com/15 to get that episode, get that particular, episode and be able to listen to it. So how do we, since we are all crabs in the bucket and we keep getting pulled down, how do we actually escape that bucket? And there's a couple of different tools and key points that you want to focus in on when you're trying to get out of that bucket. When you want to just ignore those snide comments that people are making about how it must be nice that you can afford a boat, or, oh, boo-hoo, be too bad you can't afford your slip fee. All these comments that are meant to make them feel better because they haven't succeeded at the level that you have. And the key points as to do this is, first, your why. Know your why. Why are you striving to do this? Keep that why fixed firmly in the front part of your brain, so that when people make these comments and you start questioning whether you should be doing this or not, you can see that why and go, well, this because this is the path I have to take. This is my why I'm not going to be able to, achieve my goals unless I go through this wall of fire. So you have to focus in on your why. And yeah, you may know that there's danger on the other side, but the fact that those dangers are knowledgeable, and when you get through that discomfort that you felt for going through that wall of fire will actually make you stronger in later on. So follow your why. You also want to make sure you have the resolve to keep going, and you got to be resolute. This follows up with your why. Once you have your why, you resolve that you're going to pursue that why until it has been achieved. And so that helps to act as an armor for those arrows of people making those disparaging remarks, questioning you, and it'll be harder for you to actually falter if they throw a very good reason, though emotionally based, but it's still a very good reason as to why you shouldn't pursue your dream. If you have that resolve, you can understand why they're saying what they're saying, and you can appreciate what they're saying, but still be able to carry on. And the next reason, key point is actually learn how to filter the advice. Everybody's got advice. It is a way of, as Baz Luhrmann said, advice is fishing the nostalgia from your past, painting over the ugly parts and selling it for more than it's worth. Advice also has got little elements of truth in it, but also is something that a little element of truth often is wrapped up in emotion. And so if you can actually filter the emotional thoughts out of the advice, you can actually get the true facts of what to worry about, taken care. You can get those filtered out, and you can have just the nuggets, factual nuggets that are important for you. You can actually take those and apply the foresight of, hey, I may need to worry about this down the road. This is something that needs to be addressed. This is something that doesn't need to be addressed. You can actually take and understand, well, they're coming from a place of fear. They're worried about me. They know that I'm fixing to do something that could result in my financial ruin. But if it pays off, then I'll be set for the next 10, 20 years. You can see the advice and as little nuggets of truth, but those nuggets, and you're able to take those nuggets and dig out the truth out of what the emotional response is. Now, the last way if you want to be able to get out of the bucket is by joining a mastermind. And the people in a mastermind, first off, they're not relatives in any way. They're not your best friends. They do become your best friends, but they're friends with a different agenda. They want to see you succeed the same as you want to help them succeed. And so because of that, they're going to be okay with you taking risky moves. They're going to be okay with you doing, hey, you may end up being in a financial hardship for a little while, but if you stick through the scarcity, get past the scarcity mindset, there is a return on your investment that just is mind blowing. What's going to hold you back is not the fact that you're going to have, X, Y, or Z happen to you, but what's going to be holding you back is the fact that your mindset is going to scream, don't do it this way. When in reality, you want to do it, go exactly the opposite of what that mindset is. There's little hints and tips and clues and suggestions, and all because your mastermind will actually do far less emotional advice and more concrete advice. So if you're interested in joining a mastermind, I have a mastermind that's available to you. It's the Conclave of Men. You can go to relaxedmale.com / the conclave, the-conclave. You'll actually be able to get over to the Conclave of Men's page, and there you'll be able to read more about it and be able to fill out an application and see if you would like to. That way we can kind of get to know you and see if you would like to actually join. But the conclave or masterminds are great for helping you do that. And if you're running into an issue and want to get out of being ANA in a crab bucket, you want to go on ahead and add that fertilizer to yourself so that you can become the tallest poppy of the land, then a mastermind is a great way to do that. And the conclave of men can definitely help you with that. So the last point I want to make about, being a crab in the bucket is make sure that you're not pulling your son back into the bucket also. Yeah, we often have fears, concerns, and things like that for what our son is wanting to do. He may be moving in with a girl who, is just not going to be a good fit for him. But, there's a lot of times where, it's not going to be, the girl's going to end up breaking his heart and he's going to, you're going to might have to put the pieces together again later on. But telling him that, is one thing. Trying to control him so that he doesn't get hurt is a completely different thing. And trying to hold him back from doing that experience. I'm not advocating, people, men and women living together unless they're married, because I think that's the better way to go. But if he is bound and determined to do that, then it's just, you need to just kind of step back and let him learn the hard way as to why you don't want to do that. There's so much, and the evidence of it becomes very clear very quickly if he's, once he gets himself into that situation. And there's a chance he may end up having a kid, and if that happens, there's not much you can do about it. He is an adult, especially if they're over the age of 18. That's legally an adult. And so he gets to make those decisions, and all you're able to do is be the mentor and try to guide him instead of trying to parent. And so a lot of times though, because we are trying to parent, we pull our child down into, back into the crab bucket. And so if he's wanting to join the military, like I said before, we're trying to talk him out of it. Well, why are we trying to talk him out of it? The reasons why, and ask yourself that. Why are you wanting to keep him from doing something? Yeah, it may be dangerous. It may be, have an element of danger, but what are the rewards? Look at yourself. Try to see if you can offer that same advice without the emotional thought. Pay attention to what you're feeling when he says something like that to you. Are you feeling tight in the chest? Are you, and stuff, there's a emotional response that's happening. That's probably the wrong time to actually give the advice, is when you feel that emotional response. So there you go. That's the crab in the bucket. Avoid the crab bucket if you can, but you're going to find we all have family and friends. So we're going to have the crabs who are going to try to pull us down. You're going to have people who are not in our bucket call us a tall poppy and going to try to cut us down. We can avoid those things, and that we should avoid those things. But to do so is actually fairly difficult. And as long as you pay attention and keep your eye on what your goals are and focus on your whys, you can actually pull yourself out of that bucket and grow taller than the rest. And you can be the envy of the people around you, and you can take that envy and be prideful of it. All right. So if you like this episode, please share it out with your friends, man. Share it out on Facebook and Twitter. And, if you're listening to it through, YouTube, share it out. Share it however you listen to it. If you really want to get all these episodes, each week when they come out on Thursday morning, then please, go to your, podcatcher of choice and do a search for me. The Relaxed Male should come up. If you're having problems finding it, you can go to relaxedmale.com/subscribe. I believe that's right. Let me double check. Yes. So you can actually go to relaxedmale.com/subscribe, and that will give you a huge list of all the ways you can join. We've got Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn, Android. If you've got just a regular Android phone and you don't use Google Podcasts, we've actually got a way for you to do there. I'm on Stitcher and iHeart and Deezer, and Pocket Cast and Overcast and Castro and Castbox and Player FM and Swoot and Public Radio, Breaker, Podbean and Bullhorn. I mean, I'm trying to get as many different places as I possibly can to be so that you can listen to this podcast at your convenience. And that's what I aim to do. And if you are on Apple Podcasts, please give me a rating and review. Doesn't do so much for getting me up on the list, but those people who come in and they see the reviews, they can see that you really approve of it, you really like it, and that helps me out tremendously. If you're on an Android phone, then go to relaxedmale.com/podchaser, and that will actually get you over to our Podchaser page, and from there, again, leave a rating and review there, and that helps people to be able to find me over there. So thank you again for listening. You have yourself a great day. Hug your son, and we will talk to you next week. Until then, bye.